In the last video, we covered EC2 instance basics, as well as some of the main features that EC2 instances offer. In this video, we're going to configure and create our own instance, and this is definitely something that you should follow along with in your own AWS dashboard. So of course, the first thing we need to do is click on Services, and then EC2. And on the EC2 dashboard, let's click Launch Instance, which will bring us to the AMI selection page. Now once again, you have a ton of AMIs to choose from, including plenty of free tier eligible options, but for now, let's just choose Amazon Linux 2 at the very top here. The next page is your instance type, and of course there are just a huge number of instance types depending on exactly what kind of power you need for your instance, but for now let's choose the free tier eligible option, which is t2.micro, and let's hit Next to configure instance details. We'll cover auto-scaling in another video later in the course, but for now, let's leave that alone and let's just leave the number of instances as 1. And of course, you know from a previous video that spot instances are a great way to get a little bit of compute time while saving as much money as possible, but we're not going to select this option for now. In the next section, we have network, subnet, and auto-assign public IP. So network is the VPC that you want to deploy this instance into. For now, we only have one VPC, and that's the default one that comes with any new AWS account. So we'll just leave it like that for now. The subnet is going to be a drop-down containing any subnet that has been created in that VPC. So the default VPC comes with a subnet for each availability zone in the region that the VPC is in. So because the region of North Virginia has 6 availability zones, there were 6 subnets created for this VPC. Now you can choose a specific subnet if you'd like, or you can just leave it as no preference, and that'll give it the default subnet in any availability zone. For auto-assign public IP, if you want your instance to be public routable and to have a public IP, but you don't want to use an elastic IP, then you can set this to enable if you'd like. But for now, we're just going to use the subnet setting because we don't need that public IP. Now we have an entire module on IAM roles and identity and access management later in the course, so we're not going to cover this in too much detail right now. But for now, just know that if you wanted your EC2 instance to be able to access particular resources or different parts of AWS's API, then it would need an IAM role to be able to do that. For now, we don't have any created, so we're just going to leave that alone. Next is Shutdown Behavior. So you have 2 options for this, and Shutdown Behavior is the behavior that the EC2 follows when it's turned off. It can do one of 2 things. It can just stop, or it can actually terminate. Now, of course, the default is stop, and that's where you're going to leave it most of the time. Next is Enable Termination Protection. So what this means is if you were to go and try to terminate your EC2 instance, if this isn't enabled, then it's just going to terminate. But if you do enable this, then you'll get a pop-up that says, are you sure you want to do this? Please disable termination protection first. It's just another layer to make sure you don't accidentally delete something that you don't want to delete. Next is monitoring, and CloudWatch isn't in the scope of this video, but for now just know that CloudWatch is an excellent monitoring tool that AWS provides for a number of different services, including EC2 instances. It does cost a little bit extra, so we're not going to click it for now, but just know that if you were to enable this, then metrics would get sent to CloudWatch for you to be able to track your EC2 instance. Next is Tenancy. So these are going to be different price levels, and you have 3 options. You've got shared, which means you're going to run this instance in a shared hardware instance. This is for instances where you don't need a certain level of compliance and you're okay paying a little bit less and having just a little bit less of that isolation factor. Second, we have dedicated, which means run this on a dedicated virtual machine, and finally dedicated host, which means you're launching the virtual machine on a dedicated physical host. If you need certain levels of compliance, then you might run into this in the future, but for now, we're just going to leave it at shared. Unlimited is a special feature that's offered by T2 instance types and T3 instance types, and that's a way to be able to burst past your baseline CPU usage if you need to. Additional charges may apply for this, and we're not going to need it for now, but if you'd like to know more about this, it's outside of the scope of this video, but feel free to click Learn More here to find out more about that. And then finally on this page we have advanced details, and that's just the one option here, which is user data. User data is any script or program you'd like to run on the EC2 instance after it's created. So if you need specific software installed or packages updated or anything like that, you want that to happen when the instance is created, then you would place that user data here. For now though, let's just click Add Storage and move on. On this page, we can configure the EBS-backed storage for the EC2 instance. So every EC2 instance will start with the root volume, and the default that it sets it to is 8 gigabytes, although for free tier, you can set that for up to 30 gigabytes of EBS general purpose or magnetic storage. We'll learn more about different EBS volume types in a future video. For now though, just know that you can set your volume type here, the amount of space you need for your root EBS, and you can also have the ability to add more EBS volumes if you need. For now though, we're just going to leave it alone and click Next, Add Tags. Once again, tags are assignable metadata for you to use to organize and identify your instances. For now, I'm just going to add one. I'm going to give it the key of name and the value of my first instance. Now you also have the ability to add up to 50 other tags if you'd like. And then over here, what the instances checkbox and the volumes checkbox means is that if you're deploying autoscaling or more than one instance, then the tag will get applied to all instances. And for volumes, if you're creating more than one EBS volume, then the same thing. The tag will get applied to every EBS volume. For now though, let's just click Configure Security Group. On this page, we've got a couple of options for a security group. We can either select an existing one or create a new one. So if we were to select an existing security group, then we'll see a list of security groups that are available in this region. For now though, we're going to create our own. You can give it any group name and description you'd like, but I'm going to leave them as default for now. The important thing is the rule. So right now I want to set an incoming rule for SSH because at the end of this video we are going to SSH into this instance. So under type, if you were to open this dropdown, you'll see that you're given just a huge number of options for different ports or different protocols that you want to access your instance through. We're going to leave this on SSH for now. And you'll notice if it's able, it'll also set the protocol and the port range for you. What we want to do for now though is go to Source and then click My IP, and that'll auto-populate your IP. Give it a description and click Review and Launch. Now on this page is just going to be a summary of all of the options that we've already chosen, so we're going to skip past this and click Launch. And now for key pairs. So for key pairs, you also have a couple of options. You can either create one or choose an existing one. You can also proceed without a key pair if you're never going to need access. But for now, we're going to create a new key pair. It's going to ask you for a key pair name. Just call this anything you'd like. And then click Download Key Pair. And you'll notice that actually downloads a file. Now, one quick note, of course, this is the SSH key that you're going to use to access this instance, and it's not going to be downloadable after you leave this page. So make sure you keep this in a secure location and that you remember where you placed it. Finally, let's click Launch Instance. Now this will take just a moment for it to finish initializing, so I'm going to pause this video for just a moment. And look at that, our first instance has been created, and you'll see the name tag that we applied earlier, my first instance. So as a last test, let's test that SSH key and our security group by trying to SSH in. So let's select the instance and then click Connect. This modal will have a couple of things that we'll need to get into the server. So the first is the script to change the permissions on that file, and the second is going to be the actual SSH command. So if we did everything right with our key pair and our security group, then we should be able to SSH into that instance now. And we did. We're in. So we've successfully created and configured our first EC2 instance.